Hi, I'm RC Jim, and just recently we've done the assembly of this Hobbyking MX2, and I had the maiden flight and everything. Had a few over-control type issues on the maiden flight, but just related to my having the settings set too high and not knowing just exactly what it was. Got that all settled down to fly beautifully. But I was a bit concerned about the motor. I mentioned I had a warranty claim concerning the motor, and even with the replacement, I note that there's a certain frequency that really makes a loud noise, and I thought, I'm not so sure about that. So I thought I'd look into upgrading the motor, or maybe not so much upgrading in terms of power or anything, but getting a motor that I'm a little bit more confident with. And so I've had a look at doing basically the equivalent set of power with the Dualsky. So this video has to do with that changeover, and then comparing the performance of that Dualsky with the motor that came with it. So have a look and see what you think. We're repowering this Hobbyking MX2. The original motor is this Ace RC Ripper OBL 36/11-40A 1100 kV, and I'm replacing that with a Dualsky. This is a 2826C V2. It's a similar, let's see, 720 watts, 850 kV. It's supposed to be a 32 class motor. Weighs 167 grams, 720 watts for 15 seconds. So with this, it comes with a standard set of stuff. I've already put on the shaft, the thing to hold the prop. Physical size, you can see it's very, very similar. Looks like a tiny bit shorter. So we've already put the front bit on, so now we put on the back bit, and we'll do some measuring to make sure we get this, at least the same distance out, if not a tiny bit more. Okay, 2mm driver. They generally make these things to where they have something that is the equivalent of a thread locker one way or another, so you don't have to worry about adding anything. With these, they're very solid bolts, and given that you don't have a ratchet or whatever with this type of a driver, you can get it really snug. You know, this is something you don't want to have come apart, and you're not going to break it twisting it with a handle like this. Okay, so measuring our the old motor, 5743. The new one, 5699. Washer is 82. So that'll give us more than what we need to get the full width of the thing, or full length that we need. Okay, now we're probably going to need a little bit longer bolts, huh? Okay, we've got some bolts that are a tiny bit longer, and these have a hex socket on it, which will be good. Yeah, 2.5 mil. Okay, so, let's find out what size spanner we need for these. I think probably 5.5 in memory. Yep, 5.5. Okay, that's all looking pretty good. That's our motor. We could put on our existing ESC, but I've got a 65 amp one coming, so we'll wait and run that through from the bottom. But that's got the motor installed. We do have a bit of a clearance problem here, putting on the engine cowl. It's rubbing on the inside of the foam there, and we just barely have enough clearance to clear the behind this thing. Yeah, well that clears okay. It's about right. It's rubbing on the back of that, so I think what we'll do is we'll just carve out part of the foam over on that side. The outside part's fine, we'll just have to carve it a bit on the inside. A new blade on our hobby knife. Okay, that's looking quite good all around. That's clear. This has got enough clearance. Well, having gone through all that work to get our motor attached and hooking up our ESC, threading it through the bottom, I realized that there's no way I'm going to get these wires back in there without removing the motor. So, if you stick to the factory ESC with a length, or an ESC that has the same sort of length of wires on it, then really, with this motor, you're going to have to hook up the ESC before you attach the motor. And given that you're going to have to hook it up ahead of time, you better test the motor direction before you put it on there, unless you're going to reprogram it to reverse it. So, we're going to test the motor direction, then I'm going to take it off, feed the leads through. I do have another ESC coming. I got a 65 amp light Dualsky ESC coming, but it's not here yet. And we'll see what this one does, and we might even then compare that with the Dualsky one to see if the ESC makes any difference at all. As we've demonstrated before, we'll use our servo tester to run the motor. We've plugged it in. We've held down on the cell servo button to get into servo mode. We then dialed it down to 1,000 microsecond pulses. I had to get my little battery tray out in order to be able to reach the power down here. Okay, we got it plugged in. And we'll see which direction we're going. And that is the correct direction. Okay, so just mark these so that we can put them back together when we pull it out. Although we're not really going to have to take them loose, are we? We just need to get the motor out. We can pull it all back in. If this was my permanent installation, I'd be putting new heat shrink on those to keep them together and, you know, make them secure and all that. But I'm going to be testing the other ESC, so for now we are just going to leave it as it is. So we feed our wires in, and then the trick is getting this thing onto the motor mounts without pushing the bolts back in. Okay, got two bottom ones started. Now get my fingers switched to the top. Got one of them. Where's the second one? There's the second one. Okay, success. Okay, I got a 2.5 millimeter thing on here. And now I've got the issue that I had before, that I need to hold this and start a bolt at the same time, or nut at the same time. I guess this is coming off too, so you know, we won't worry about the thread locker. Again, normally I would put the thread locker on for permanent installation, but given that we're going to do some motor testing and change things around, this is coming off before long. So we will just leave it as it is. Okay, that's on there nice and solid. Leads are inside. ESC is now inside. Need to put some Velcro hooks down to fasten it in place. And then we're set to go. It's often a bit of a challenge positioning something like this. So one of the easy things to do is get a piece of wire, stick it to the wire, and then use that to position it where you want it, and then just push down on it. Oh, good. Okay, we got a 7-channel in here. Two, three, four. Okay, we just need to get the throttle plugged in. This is again why I put my receiver on Velcro. Is that sometimes it just gets into a place where you just can't get your fingers in there to get leads in and out. So if I can just pull it off the Velcro, put the things in there. Okay, all the dark ones are on the bottom. And I don't know why they have multiple different colors for the top ones, but the bottom ones are always the darkest, either brown or black. Okay, that's down there nice and secure. Telemetry lead came off. And ailerons will plug in when we get the wings back on. I'm going to turn, probably won't use the stabilization, but nonetheless, with the huge ailerons on this, I'm going to turn the gain way down on the aileron, just in case I decide on some crazy spur of the moment to use the stabilization. The main thing I've got this receiver in there for is the telemetry. I like all that telemetry information. Now for the voltage probe. Connectors along the top, so it'll go in that way. Okay, voltage probe in nice and securely. Antennas are in place. That's all good. Okay, we can get the wings in place, but we might do some testing first. Now, landing gear. Okay, we've had an issue with the landing gear that the bolts aren't long enough. The bolts that come with this are the short ones, and I've purchased some longer ones. The reason being is that these short ones don't even reach the blind nuts on the bottom. So what we've got to do is we need to drill out these holes a little bit so it doesn't tighten down on this. Let's see if that doesn't. Yep. And no, it's not starting. That's got it now. I'm just screwing these in there. I'm going to have a look then at the other side just to double check that they're actually in the blind nut. And then we'll put on the landing gear. Yes, they're both coming through the right place. And it's not going to hit the ESC. That drill, by the way, was a number 24. Don't ask me why they have numbered drill bits, but that set is a set of numbered bits. These are both the long ones. With this now, we're compressing that foam. So maybe I will put the thread locker on it now, just in case I don't take these back off again. So given that we, now the way it goes down, it's compressing that foam and it's not pulling on it really tight, I want to make sure that these things don't jiggle out. It'd be rather embarrassing to have my landing gear fall off while I'm flying around the pattern. Okay. Actually, come to think of it, I do have some nylon bolts on order, so those things are going to get changed most likely. Switch to the nylon ones so that if we have a rough landing, we just bust off the landing gear and we don't break as much stuff in the plane. Okay, so I think we're ready now to do some thrust testing. Fun and games. Okay, well, we've got a Dualsky Eco 2826C 850 kV in this plane at the present time. The recommended prop for that with a 4S battery is either 13.6.5E or a 12 by 5E. So I've got a 13 by 6E in here at the moment. This is a master air screw prop. And it doesn't really look like the normal electric style. It's got rounded ends on it, so that particular style. So 13 by 6 master air screw. Okay, let's hook up our power. Well, first get our radio going. Everything is safe. MX2, got the right model. Okay, we plug in our power. Okay. And we got 16.28 volts. Okay, zero out our scale. Okay, all set to go. Arm the throttle. $71 amps, way too much. It is interesting on this that as you look at their specs and they do their testing, they actually go up to 61 amps with a 13 by 6.5, but we just pulled 71. Depends a lot on the prop. So that prop is going to be too much for it. So let's go for another prop. This is the 13.4 that we had on there, that particular style. Master air screw Windsor propellers. Okay, now we've got on it the prop that came with a plane. That's a, did I say 13.4? This one is 13.6. 1360E, 3315E is the number on that. Okay, that one is a 13 by 4, which is the prop that came with a plane. Okay, so everything's safe. Transmitter powered on. Okay, tethered nicely. Power to the plane. $16.23 volts. Arm the throttle. Amps, 2.66 kilograms. Okay, that was 47 amps, 2.66 kilos of thrust. Okay, so we're good for 45 amps for 15 seconds. So that one's mighty close, and certainly if the battery was down a little bit farther, wouldn't be any issue at all. And 2.66 kilos of thrust is quite all right. Not the 3 kilos that they suggest from Dualsky that you can get. And we'll try another prop. Just one correction on that last test. It was a 13 by 4, which is the size that they deliver with a plane, but it's a gem fan brand. It wasn't the actual prop that they provided with a plane. It was a gem fan, which may or may not be what they provided, but just letting you know about that. Okay, powered up, safe. We've now got a 12 by 6 gem fan on there. Okay, we're now down to 16.14 volts and 12 by 6 gem fan. Okay. Power. Armed. .46, 2.5. So not a lot different, given that the voltage is just a tiny bit farther down. Finished up at 16.01, 0.02, 16.02 volts. Okay, so I think we do fine with either the 13 by 4 or the 12 by 6 electric props. The 13 by 6 being just a little bit too much. Just comparing with our figures on the motors supplied with the plane. At 16.4 volts, it developed 2.6 kilos of thrust, 16.4. So that's a higher voltage than what we had, well, about the same. Yeah, just looking at the other plane, at 15.27 volts, it was 2.6 kilos of thrust, 59 amps with a 13 by 4 prop. As I'm packing away the MX2, I just thought I might share the latest gadget that I've got for hanging my planes. This one right here is partly this way because I need access to the top of the garage for some heavy boxes and things, and I didn't want to have permanent stands. I want to have something that I can take loose and get out of the way if I need to get a ladder in there and do whatever I might need to do. Most of the time it's just fine here. But also, it's kind of handy being able to lower it down to this level to be able to do what I need to do. Got a couple of loops on here, one for the getting the top plane and one for getting the bottom plane. And of course, it can go all the way up. And hook her onto the big screw. And there she is, all neatly tucked away. Well, thank you for watching. If you've got one of these MX2s and you've got the Hobbyking motor in it, or the one provided by Hobbyking, you might not want to change that. You might just want to leave it like it is. But if you decide that you do want to change, or something happens where you need to change, well, certainly that Dualsky motor is a good option. I'm RC Jim, wishing you a very great day and some enjoyable flying. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe. And of course, have a look at some of the other videos on the site, especially having to do with this MX2. You have a great day.